So picture sitting in the driver's seat of like a high-performance sports car.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right. And your foot is just absolutely mashed down on the gas pedal. The engine is screaming, the RPMs are redlining, and the whole chassis is just, it's vibrating with this incredible, violent stored energy.
Oh, yeah, you feel like you're doing a massive amount of work, just making a ton of noise.
Exactly. But then you look out the window,
Mm-hmm.
and you haven't moved a single inch.
Ah, because the parking brake is still completely engaged.
Yes. You have all the power in the world, but zero forward momentum. And that visceral feeling of just noisy, exhausting stagnation, that is the exact paradox we are unpacking in today's deep dive.
It's an incredibly exhausting way to operate. I mean, all that output, all that premium fuel being burned, just to remain completely stationary.
Yeah, and the frustration compounds because you know what you're capable of, right?
Right.
We're exploring why smart, highly capable, intensely driven people, especially entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
so often get stuck overthinking instead of actually taking action.
Right, because the mechanical reality of the situation is just preventing any actual progress.
So our mission today is to figure out how to finally disengage that internal parking brake, break the cycle of hesitation, and start building genuine, confident momentum.
And we have some really fascinating source material for this.
We do. We're drawing from a piece by leadership coach and senior pastor Dennis M. Mogori. It's called Execution Block: Why Smart Entrepreneurs Overthink Instead of Act.
It's a great piece.
It really is. So if you're listening right now and you are just, tired of hovering on the edge of taking a leap, we're going to map out the journey from self-doubt to decisive action.
Well, what immediately stands out in his writing is how he reframes the whole problem. Because, when we watch brilliant people sit on ideas that could completely alter their trajectories, we tend to assume they're missing something.
Right, like they're missing a critical piece of information or maybe a resource.
Exactly. We think they lack the right connection or the market conditions aren't perfect, but they aren't missing the puzzle pieces at all.
The pieces are sitting right there on the table.
Yes. The issue is they are caught in an execution block. And what makes an execution block so incredibly insidious is that it doesn't look or feel like laziness.
No, it disguises itself as extreme productivity, right?
Yes, you're analyzing every angle, you're tweaking the business plan for the 50th time, running endless risk mitigation scenarios.
So you feel like you're working really hard.
You do. Let's actually look at the underlying psychological mechanism here, because that's where the trap really springs.
Okay, lay it on me.
So, the human brain is designed to seek rewards while minimizing threats, right? When you sit at your desk and meticulously outline a beautiful, comprehensive business plan, your brain releases a hit of dopamine.
Oh, wow. So you get the biochemical payoff of achieving something.
Exactly. But because it's all theoretical, you completely avoid the cortisol spike that comes with real-world risk.
Right, because there's no threat of a customer actually rejecting your product.
Or a market ignoring your launch. You're getting all the neurochemical rewards of building a business with absolutely none of the vulnerability.
Man, that perfectly explains why my to-do list feels so satisfying to write, even if I don't actually cross anything off.
Right. You get the reward up front.
Yeah, you convince yourself you're being a deeply responsible, strategic professional. You say things like, I just need a little more clarity on this demographic.
Or I'll pull the trigger when I feel completely ready.
But wait, I have to push back a little here.
Sure, go ahead.
Isn't preparation a good thing? I mean, if I just run blindly into a product launch without researching my market, or if I pour my life savings into an idea without a financial model, I'm going to fail.
Well, yeah, nobody is saying you should be reckless.
So where is the actual line between smart, necessary preparation and just, soothing our anxiety by stalling?
That's a great question. The line is drawn at the pursuit of clarity, and specifically how you believe clarity is actually generated.
Okay, tracking with you.
The assumption we usually make is that clarity is a prerequisite for action. We believe we have to see the entire staircase before we take the first step.
Right, which sounds logical.
But Amagori points out that the reality is clarity does not precede movement. Clarity is generated by the friction of movement.
Oh, wow. That completely flips the traditional script.
It really does. Think about the physics of it. You cannot A/B test a hypothesis that only exists in your head.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you wait until every variable is known and every risk is neutralized, your stance might be perfect, but you're still that parked car with a revving engine.
So you might be in a great position, but you're making zero progress.
Exactly. Position versus progress. You are waiting for a type of data that can only be harvested by interacting with the real world.
Real-world feedback is what produces the clarity.
Yes, and you only get that feedback by colliding with the market.
Which brings us to a point in the text that completely caught me off guard.
The intelligence paradox.
Yes. You'd naturally assume that getting stuck in this planning phase happens when someone lacks the intellect to figure out the next step. But it's actually the exact opposite.
Right, an execution block is rarely caused by a lack of intelligence.
It's the curse of the smart entrepreneur. Their high cognitive capacity is the actual roadblock.
Which is entirely counterintuitive until you break down how highly analytical people process information.
Right.
When you have a massive amount of cognitive RAM, so to speak, you have the ability to run incredibly complex simulations in your mind.
You can map out scenario A, scenario B.
And anticipate the cascading consequences all the way down to scenario Z.
Makes me think of someone playing a game of chess against themselves,
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, like you sit down at the board, you play the white pieces, and you formulate this brilliant opening strategy in your head.
Right.
But because you're so analytical, you immediately walk around to the other side of the board, look at it from the perspective of the black pieces, and invent the perfect counter move to defeat your own strategy.
Exactly. So then you have to walk back around and rethink the white move to protect against the black move you just invented.
Yeah. You're seeing so many moves and counter moves down the line that you become completely paralyzed. I mean, you never actually touch a physical piece.
And the fatal flaw in that chess simulation is the assumption that the real world plays by deterministic rules.
Oh, that's good.
You're playing chess against yourself, but the market usually plays something chaotic, like a dice game.
Right. Your 50-move simulation becomes entirely useless the second the board gets bumped.
Exactly. But for highly intelligent people, the intense psychological need to be right completely overrides the willingness to step into that unpredictable arena.
Because if they stay in the simulation, they never have to be wrong.
Yes. Their intellect becomes a fortress that keeps them safe from failure, but also totally isolated from growth.
So, to the outside observer, and often to themselves, honestly, this endless deliberation looks like careful, calculated leadership.
But internally, it's really just fear masquerading as wisdom.
So if the intellect is essentially weaponizing itself against taking action, how do we fix this? I mean, we clearly can't outthink an overthinking problem.
No, you definitely can't.
If the brain's hardware is functioning perfectly, maybe even too perfectly, then the issue has to be with the software, right? We have to look at the operator.
And that brings us to the core thesis of Mbogori's work. The root cause of an execution block goes much deeper than lacking a solid business strategy.
It fundamentally comes down to who you believe you are.
Exactly. Execution is ultimately an identity issue.
Now, wait, is it really that deep, though?
What do you mean?
Well, isn't this just a fancy way of saying we have a time management or, like, a procrastination problem?
It's easy to dismiss it as that, but no, it's not. The idea is that action flows directly from identity.
Okay, explain that.
It's like trying to run a brand new piece of software on an incompatible operating system.
Yeah.
You can have the most brilliant, revolutionary app in the world, which is your business plan or your new project. But if your internal operating system is hard-coded as, say, studentmode.exe or preparer.exe, that executable file is going to crash every single time you try to launch it.
Wow, that is a phenomenal way to visualize cognitive dissonance.
Because humans possess this really powerful subconscious drive to act in ways that are consistent with their internal labels.
So if your internal narrative is that you are someone who is, quote, getting ready,
Or someone who is learning the ropes.
then taking decisive action poses a literal psychological threat to that identity.
The brain actually treats it as a danger. It triggers a fight or flight response.
That is wild.
It is. When you sit down to finally publish that website or launch that product, your nervous system flares up because you are violating your own operating system.
You're trying to perform the actions of a builder while still wearing the identity of a preparer.
Exactly. So your brain steps in to protect you from that cognitive dissonance by offering a highly rational sounding excuse like, let's just do one more week of market research.
Oh, man. So the hesitation you feel isn't poor time management at all. It's your mind actively resisting a transformation.
You haven't fully stepped into who you are becoming. You're avoiding the evolution of your identity, not the task itself.
That realization completely changes the battleground. I mean, We aren't fighting procrastination. We are fighting to update our internal operating system from preparer to builder.
And to explain the mechanics of how we actually force that shift, Mbugori draws on some historical, faith-based wisdom.
Right, because his background is as a senior pastor. So he roots these leadership principles in some very old, very tested observations about human behavior.
And, regardless of anyone's personal background, the philosophical wisdom contained in these texts offers an incredibly sharp lens on how we operate.
Absolutely. It's just fascinating historical wisdom.
He highlights a specific observation from the book of Ecclesiastes, which says, "Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap."
I love that. It is the ultimate warning about the trap of waiting for perfect conditions.
It really is.
Like, imagine a modern-day farmer, right? He has the best seed money can buy. His tractor is fueled up. The soil is prepared.
Okay.
But instead of physically planting the field, he's just sitting on his porch, aggressively doom-scrolling a highly advanced weather app.
Oh, that's such a good modern parallel.
Right. He's analyzing the wind velocity.
Yeah.
He's checking the barometric pressure drops. He's waiting until the cloud cover is exactly 22%.
Just waiting for the perfect moment.
Yeah, he's so obsessed with ensuring a flawless, risk-free sunny day for his seeds that the planting season completely passes him by.
He is observing the environment instead of manipulating it.
Yes.
By constantly looking at the clouds, by anticipating every possible negative outcome, he mathematically guarantees that he will never reap a harvest.
He remains perfectly in position, but never in progress.
Because the soil doesn't care how brilliant his weather analysis is. The soil does not respond to intention.
Intention means nothing to the soil.
It only responds to the physical action of planting.
That is just brilliant.
And he synthesizes this with another piece of historical wisdom from James, which says, "Be doers of the word and not hearers only."
So consuming information without executing on it is basically a form of self-deception.
Exactly. Growth responds to action, not intention. Therefore, the mechanical shift required to break an execution block is straightforward, though certainly not comfortable.
Right. What is it?
You must move before you feel ready.
Oh, man. That is the terrifying part for the analytical mind. Moving before you feel ready feels so reckless. It feels like you're closing your eyes and throwing darts.
But moving decisively is very different from moving recklessly.
Okay, how so?
Moving decisively means taking the knowledge you currently possess, fully acknowledging that your dataset is incomplete, and choosing to take the step anyway.
You're trusting the process of momentum.
Exactly. As we established, you cannot steer a parked car. You have to be rolling to get any feedback from the steering wheel.
Movement is what actually produces the data you need to correct your course.
Which builds confidence,
Yeah.
It's how you go from doubt to confident momentum.
So knowing that action is the catalyst for clarity, and knowing our intellect will constantly try to trick us into staying in the safety of the planning phase, how do we practically apply this right now?
For the listener who feels stuck,
Yeah, for the listener who recognizes that their internal parking brake is fully engaged, how do they take action today?
well, it requires adopting a completely new standard for execution. You have to consciously stop measuring your readiness by how you feel.
Because your feelings are a terrible barometer for execution.
Exactly. Feelings prioritize comfort, and comfort requires the avoidance of risk. If you wait for the feeling of complete safety, you'll be waiting forever.
The feeling of readiness is basically an illusion.
It is. So the new metric becomes your willingness to act. You measure your readiness by your willingness to take a step, even if that step is imperfect, unpolished, and deeply uncomfortable.
Just stepping into it.
Yeah. And to force this issue into reality, the author poses two intensely practical, reflective questions. I actually want you, the listener, to apply these to your own business, your own career, or whatever project is currently stalled on your desk.
Okay, listener, get ready. What's the first question?
First, what decision are you avoiding right now?
Oof. Everyone has one.
Oh, absolutely.
It's that one choice that has been sitting in your mental inbox for months, gathering dust while you pretend to research other things.
Exactly. And the second question, what action have you delayed that you already know you need to take?
Not something you need more information on.
Right. We're talking about the move you already know is the right move.
Those questions brutally cut through the illusion of preparation, don't they?
They really do. They force you to look at the chessboard and admit that you already know exactly what your next move should be.
You haven't been waiting on a stroke of genius. You've just been too afraid to touch the piece.
Beautifully said.
Your next level of success, your next breakthrough, is not waiting on another deep dive or another business book or a more sophisticated spreadsheet. Your next level is waiting for your next yes.
So to quickly map out the journey we've taken today, we started by dismantling the illusion of preparation, recognizing how the brain rewards us for the simulation of work while avoiding real-world friction.
All right, the dopamine versus cortisol trap.
Yep. Then we explored the curse of the smart entrepreneur, where high cognitive capacity creates those paralyzing, overly complex scenarios.
The endless chess match against yourself.
Exactly. Then we diagnosed the root cause as an identity misalignment, the cognitive dissonance of trying to build while still seeing yourself as a student.
Or a preparer.
Right. And finally, we established the mechanics of breaking free, recognizing that clarity only comes from the feedback of real-world movement and choosing to act before the conditions are perfect.
Because the entrepreneurs who ultimately build lasting momentum aren't the ones who possess the most information, right?
No, they're the ones who are willing to move with the incomplete information they already have.
Now, for those of you who want to explore these specific mechanics further and really grow your capacity for decisive leadership, Dennis M. Bagori actually runs a faith-rooted leadership community on a platform called School.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, the community is called Affirm Your Greatness, and it's entirely focused on bridging that gap between the identity you currently hold and the identity of the person who actually executes.
Which leaves us with one final, incredibly important dynamic to consider regarding your identity.
What's that?
We discuss how your actions must flow from your identity, but that equation works in reverse as well.
Oh, interesting.
Every day you choose to stay in the planning phase, you are providing evidence to your brain about who you are. So consider what identity you are accidentally hard-coding into your internal operating system by choosing not to act today.
Wow. By remaining parked, you are actively cementing the identity of someone who stalls. The engine is roaring. The potential is undeniably there. You have the intelligence and you have the vision. The only thing left to do is reach down, disengage that parking brake, put the car in gear, and finally move.